The most important thing you can do to get people to take action on the emails you send them is to get them to actually open them. And that requires a compelling subject line. In today's training, we're going to talk about how to write a compelling subject line for the emails you send for your restaurant that makes them want to open those emails. Stay tuned. My name is Mark Sieverkrop. I'm a business strategist and restaurant owner, and this is day 15 of a 30-day video training series I've created called the Inflation Proof Restaurant. In each episode, I break down how you can create your own automated sales machine within your restaurant by implementing direct response email marketing. Now, we're halfway through this training so far, and if you've missed the previous days, don't worry. I've also created a complete mind map that outlines the entire process. It includes all 30 videos, companion guides for each training, templates, examples, and other resources really designed to help make this as easy as possible for you to implement. So if you want to see the full process and access all the resources from all 30 days, you can purchase the complete mind map, but for just $7 by going to www.inboxingenuity.com/mindmap and completing the order form there. And if you're one of those people that you say you'd rather just have your automated sales machine set up for you, then we can totally do that as well. That's actually one of the main ways in which we work with restaurants. If you want to have a conversation with me about having me and my team completely set up your automated sales machine and all of the tech and marketing materials and everything that goes along with it, and write the copy for you so that you don't have to worry about figuring out those compelling subject lines, go ahead and book a no obligation call today with me by going to www.inboxingenuity.com/apply. Now let's talk about crafting compelling subject lines for your emails. Okay, so when we talk about subject lines, I want to address right up front, why are good subject lines important? Well, think about this. When your customer opens their email inbox, what's the first thing they see? When you open your email, what's the first thing you see? It's the subject line. The subject line is what, more than anything else, is going to get your customers to open your emails. And if they don't open your email, they're never going to learn about your weekly special. They're not going to learn about your limited time offer or the coupon that you sent them or anything else that you want to share with them. So we want to make sure that we have a good subject line. It's going to do more than anything to make sure that your information gets in front of your audience. And getting the information in front of your customers, your audience, is what is going to turn on your automated sales machine. We need them to open these emails. Now, I will tell you, and we're going to talk later in the training about sending to unopened, but industry standard is about 30%, 20 to 30% open rate. That means out of every 10 people you send an email to, 2 to 3 typically open it. Now, I will tell you, utilizing the principles and the things that I'm teaching you within this series, I'm going to pull it up right now, looking at our email list for DK's Drive-In. Currently, our average open rate is 59.58%. So we're trending almost double what industry standards are for email worldwide, industry-wide, across all industries. Typical email open rates is 20 to 30%. If you get 30 to 40, you're super happy. I can tell you right now, I'm sitting at 59.58 as an average open rate for our emails. So that needs a good subject line. In order to do that, you need a great subject line. And we're going to talk about some other ways. There's ways to resend to unopens that I'll teach you as well in later trainings. But what makes for a good subject line? What makes a subject line something that people want to open? Well, the goal of your subject line, your email subject line, is to grab their attention, is to convey the value that they're going to get from that email, and it's also to entice your recipients to open it, your customers to open it. And there's two ways to go about writing an email subject line. And I know some people that use one and I know some people that use the other. The first is to create the subject line first. Decide what a compelling subject line is based on the general idea of what you want the email to be, and then write the email around that subject line. My mentor, my friend Ray Edwards, this is one of the things that he does. He says that he starts with the subject line. Now, the other way to do it is to write the email and then to come up with an applicable, compelling subject line based on the email you've written. Now, this is often more often what I tend to do. Now, here's what I do. I'll write the email, I'll write like a first draft of it, then I'll think of a subject line that fits with it based on what I wrote. And then a lot of times what'll happen is I'll go in and I'll adjust the email to tie into the subject line. So I actually kind of do both, and I'll change it. So I'll add a line that uses the phrase that I want to use. But a lot of times, writing out the email for me helps me to get my juices flowing, to figure out exactly what I want to say in that email, which then leads me to creating a good subject line, which then allows me to adjust and revamp that email just a tiny bit. It's usually just very little. I'll add a line, I'll change something to make it work with the subject line. Both work. It just depends how you work best, what works best for you. In either case, here's a few tips for enhancing your subject lines to make sure you have good subject lines. The first is you want to create urgency or scarcity. Nothing motivates people like a deadline or the fear of missing out. So you can use urgency in your emails. Things like this week only, limited quantity, important, open today, like those types of things lead to more opens. And you can do that. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll put in brackets at the beginning of an email, and then I'll put all caps like today only, or this week only, or important. So it really catches their attention. It stands out in their email inbox because it's all in caps and it's in brackets. The next one is to use actionable language. Make sure you incorporate action verbs and language that encourages them to take action. Use words like discover or join or save or come in today. Like those types of things make your subject lines more engaging. The next is something that we've talked a little bit about in past email or past trainings, and it's to personalize your subject line. If you've gotten the name of your subject, you can put the name in your email subject line. You can use their name, or you can reference previous interactions or other things that make it personal. So you can reference local events. You can reference things that are going on in your community that customers of your restaurant would be aware of, and it would make them want to open it because it feels personal to them. Next, you want to make sure it's clear and concise. You want to keep your subject line brief enough and to the point enough that it's easily scannable and it grabs their attention. You don't want it to go on forever, obviously, because there's only so much room on their phone, on their email app, or on their desktop in their email app for that subject line. So around 5 to 8 words is a good rule of thumb. Now, it doesn't mean you can't ever go over 5 words or over 8 words or ever under 5 words. You can definitely do those things, but that's a good starting point, is that 5 to 8 word frame. The final one, and I think this is one of the most important, is using curiosity. Often the best subject lines are the ones that elicit the most curiosity. I'm not talking about clickbait. I'm not telling you to completely lie about what's in the email. I'm not saying use something salacious that makes no sense with the email. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about a subject line that relates to what the email is about, but makes your customers want to know what's inside the email. This is so important because that's what gets people. I mean, if you think about it, the emails you open are the ones where you're like, I wonder what that's about. I wonder. What are they talking about? I can't miss this. I don't want to miss this. So it's getting that curiosity to make them want to open it, because the only goal of your subject line is to get them to open the email. That's one of the keys with copywriting. The goal of the subject line is to get them to open the email. The goal of the first line of the email is to get them to read on to the second line. The goal of the second line is to get them to read on to the third line, and so on and so forth. So we need to make sure that this subject line gets them to open the email. That's your only goal with that subject line. Okay, let me give you 5 sample subject line types. These are just a few ideas. There's a lot of different things that you can use to create subject lines. And this is 5 that I learned from my friend and mentor, Ray Edwards. He's a world-class copywriter. He's written for some of the biggest names in the information marketing, the online marketing, and worlds, and is really, really good at what he does. So these are a few I learned from him. And then I've used them myself and they've worked really well. So the first one is creating a list of something. Having things like our top 5 best-selling burgers. That's something that people would want to open. They want to know what the top-selling burgers are. 3 reasons to book your dinner reservation now. So you're using a list of something, reasons to do something. And then I added in the urgency with book your reservation now. The next one is Capitalizing on holidays and other upcoming events. So subject lines like "We're on Santa's nice list." This is one I thought of that I think I'm definitely going to use in January for our restaurant. It's "Start your New Year's resolution next week. Come grab dessert today." And so it's playing on that idea that everybody's thinking of their resolutions, and you're saying, "Hey, that can be next week. Let's have some dessert today. Come in and have a dessert." So that's something I'd probably send, and I think I'm going to make a note to send that towards the end of December this year, sending an email saying, "Hey, next week you can start your resolutions. Everybody's going to start them. That's exciting. So why don't you come in and grab a Polar Swirl today before you start those resolutions?" The next one is using cliches but twisting them, adjusting them a little bit. By nature, cliches are a little bit boring because we all know what they mean. We all know what they're going to say. But if you twist them a little, if you change them a little, it can make it compelling and people can wonder what you're talking about and want to open the email. So here's a couple examples. The cliche would be "The way to a person's heart is through their stomach." You could change that. I could change that to "The way to a person's heart is through the DK's drive-through." It's a cliche that they understand, but we've twisted it and changed it. A lot of times we hear the phrase "good things come to those who wait." Well, what if you wanted people to use your delivery service or DoorDash? You could say "good things come to those who use DoorDash" or "those who DoorDash." So that's a way that you can twist those cliches and make it more compelling and exciting. The next one is playing on pop culture. If there's a book or a TV show or a movie or another pop culture reference that your customers will get, use it in a subject line. One that I told my wife recently, I wish we had used a couple months ago. We have a Polar Swirl of the month every month, and Super Mario Brothers was huge. And I don't know when you're watching this, but even now, my kids listen to the song "Peaches" by Jack Black from that movie, and I had the thought, I'm like, man, we should have created a peach Polar Swirl or a peach shake and promoted it during that time. And the subject line I came up with was, "This peach shake is so good, you'll have to watch out for Bowser," because Bowser is always trying to capture Princess Peach. And so we're tying it into that pop culture reference. The other one I came up with was I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan. I love the show Ted Lasso. It just finished its final season. So you could have a subject line like "Sad that Ted Lasso is over. Come grab a Polar Swirl to drown your sorrows." So it's tying into that pop culture reference that people are recognizing and they understand, and tying it into what they're thinking about, but also your restaurant and what you're doing. And then similar to pop culture is you can do what's called newsjacking, which is you can reference current events in your email subject line, your emails and your subject lines. So one of the big ones right now that's in the news, it's all over and people are talking about it a ton, is AI and Chat GPT. So you could have sent an email that says "Chat GPT wrote this email." And a lot of people are doing this where they're referencing AI in their emails and their marketing because it's what people are talking about. It's in the news. Another one is, I put down, "Need a quick meal before the NBA finals tonight." So if there's a sporting event happening, you can reference that sporting event and talk about that. And you can do this. I think what a really cool thing is you can do this with your local events too. If the local high school or the local sports team is having something that's happening, or there's a local community event, you can use that, and that's a newsjacking thing as well. If there's some sort of festival going on in your town, you can reference that in your email, and that will get more people to open it. Now, there is a shortcut to a great subject line. There is a shortcut. And the shortcut to creating great subject lines is paying attention to other email subject lines that you see and that compel you to open an email. So I would encourage you to begin maintaining what we call a swipe file of subject lines that you found to be really good. Now, a swipe file is simply a collection that you keep of good marketing materials that you've seen. So if there's an email that you say, "Oh my gosh, that made me open it," and it doesn't have to be a restaurant one, it can be any email you get from any store, any company, any website. If it leads you to wanting to open something, that is something that you should keep because you can use it for inspiration and guidance and to get your creative juices flowing when you're writing subject lines. This is something that I've done for years, and as a matter of fact, I've compiled a list of over, I think right now, 330 or more subject lines that I've seen that I like. And inside the companion guide for this training, you'll get access to that document that has those subject lines that I've grabbed. Now, these are subject lines from across different industries, across used for different reasons. But the cool thing about it is as you read them, something will spark in your mind. And this is what I do. When I need a subject line, I just start reading through that document, and one of the subject lines will catch my attention. And I'll say, ooh, I could change that and I could write this for what I'm doing. So in the companion guide that you can get by going to www.inboxingenuity.com/mind map, you will have a link to access and view my email subject line swipe file with over 330 subject lines that I love, that I use for reference. Some of them are ones I've written, most of them are ones that I've seen from other people. And you can use that as inspiration and guidance to help you to write a great subject line. And again, you don't want to use these word for word, but it's for inspiration. It gives you a way to start. And I'm always adding to it. This is something that is a living document. Every time I see a good subject line, I add it to that document. So by the time you get it, I guarantee it'll have more than 330 subject lines. So the final thing I want to talk about is what I call the subject line eye test. Once you have written the subject line for your email, here's the eye test. Ask yourself, if I got this email with this subject line, would I open it? Would it make me want to know what the email said? Does it leave me wanting more? Does it leave me with this sense of I have to open that? I have to figure out what that is. Now, it's not always a guarantee that if you like it, that somebody else will, but it's almost a guarantee that if it doesn't compel you at all, if you wouldn't open it, if it doesn't excite you, if it doesn't cause some curiosity, then it's a good bet that it won't do so for most other people as well. And you want to look for a better alternative. So make sure you're writing good subject lines. It's one of the most important things you can do. And then in the next email, once we've gotten them to open the email, we're going to talk about what you never want to write an email without including. And that's going to be our next video. Hey, super quick, I wanted to check in with you. So you've watched this training, maybe you've watched a few of the other ones, and you might be thinking, wow, Mark, this sounds like a lot of work. Or you might be thinking, I really just don't have time to do this. And if that's you, I want to suggest something. What if you just had me and my team do it for you? What if we just set up the entire automated sales machine for you? The tech, the marketing materials, the landing pages, the email copy, all of it. What if we just did it for you? If that's something that appeals to you, then I think you and I should chat. I want you to fill out the form at inboxingenuity.com/apply, and we can book a call to chat and see if it's right for you. Look, there's no obligation. We'll just have a conversation. I'll learn a little bit more about your restaurant, the goals that you have, the things that you want to accomplish, and we'll see if it's a good fit to have us work together and set up your automated sales machine for you. Again, if that sounds like something you might be interested in, go to inboxingenuity.com/apply to book your call now.